Hey friends, let's get moving. Lazily. So this class is going to be perfect for times when you're feeling low energy, but you still want to get moving. And you're going to need a few things. One is 2 therapy balls tethered together. As a reminder, you can always use a tube sock to tether your therapy balls together. You'll also need a canned good. And then I have a blanket down on the ground. That's optional, but it might help you to be extra comfortable. So we're gonna start out with some self-massage at the wall to begin with. So make sure you do have a bare wall space. Now, before I pin the balls to the wall with my body, I'm gonna show you, so the space, the valley of the balls, is going to kind of rest over top of your spine, okay? And so we're gonna be moving kind of like up and down the spine here, as high as in between the shoulder blades and as low as just above the pelvis. So let's just start someplace in the middle. So just reach back and place the therapy balls against the wall. And if you want more pressure, you're gonna walk your feet away from the wall. If you want less pressure, you're gonna walk your feet towards the wall, okay? I like a little bit more pressure, so I walk my feet quite a bit away from the wall, and then I'm just gonna relax my arms down, and as you bend your knees, you'll feel the therapy balls roll up the spine, and as you straighten your legs, you'll feel them roll down the spine. So you can go up and down here. Take it up as high as you want, down as low as you want. If you want to work higher up the spine, you either need to start the therapy balls all the way up there, or you need to bend your knees a little bit deeper. So depending on what parts are feeling like they want a little bit more attention, you can kind of toggle or calibrate your stance and ball placement as needed. And once you feel like you've done some good work in one area, maybe you pause and take the therapy balls down a bit lower and start again. You can also explore some movement. So you can give yourself a hug and kind of twist a little from side to side. This feels really great too with the therapy balls in between the shoulder blades. You can play around with some side bending, which I find nice, kind of at the low rib area, just before we get into the lower back. And then if you are going all the way down towards the pelvis, need to reposition here. If I bring the therapy balls all the way down towards just above the pelvis, it can be really nice to move your hips a little bit from side to side. Maybe do a little cat-cow pelvis where you tilt your pelvis forward and tilt your pelvis back, which is scooping the tailbone under. I think that feels really nice in the lower back. And again, in the low back area, you can also do some side bending. So really, there's no right or wrong. As long as it feels like a kind movement for your body, it is. You can pretty much do any movement or any therapy ball placement here that feels good. So just take a few more moments to move here. I'm feeling this low back. This feels nice. Maybe you're feeling the in between the shoulder blades today. Maybe you're feeling the mid back today. Okay. Let's go ahead and wrap it up. So you can lean away from the wall and put those therapy balls off to the side. Okay, we're gonna come on down to the ground now. And when we get down to the ground, you're gonna lay on your right side. So I do have this blanket here that I can use as a pillow. You can have an actual pillow, whatever you want to do. Okay, so I'm gonna rest my right shoulder down and then just kind of get my right arm out of the way. Get my braid out of the way also. Okie dokie. So I'm gonna start out with my legs in kind of a 90-degree position here. So my knees are in a line with my hips and my ankles are in a line with my knees. 90-degree bend in my knees, 90-degree bend in my hips. Okay, and then from there, I'm just gonna go ahead and pick up my left leg away from my right leg, almost like I'm opening up a suitcase. And as I do this, I'm keeping my left hip stacked over top of my right hip. So when my leg comes up, I'm not opening my whole body or opening my pelvis towards the ceiling. If that's a tricky thing for you to avoid, you can always do this with your back up against the wall or up against the couch. So I'm gonna lift my leg up now and I'm gonna explore a hip circle. I can keep the whole rest of my body relaxed, except for I do feel like my right leg is doing some stabilizing work. And of course, I feel the work that the left hip is doing as well. And you can go in the opposite direction. You can make as big of a hip circle as you can while staying pretty stable and only expending the amount of effort that feels good to you today. Find what's kind. Okay. And then from here, let's go ahead and give it a rest. Close the suitcase. And now you're gonna try to keep your knees as close together as you can. Lift your ankle, left ankle up towards the ceiling, any amount. And then put your ankles together and take your left knee up towards the ceiling, any amount. Bring the knees together. Ankles apart, ankles together, knees apart. Really greasing those hips. One more each way. Knees together, ankles apart, ankles together, knees apart. And then close the suitcase for good. Okay, so if you want to just roll over to your back and over to the other side, you can. But so that I can keep facing you, I'm going to sit up and head on over to the other side. So laying on my left side now. Okay, and again, 90 degrees in the hips, 90 degrees in the knees, making sure that the right hip stays stacked over the left hip. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and open the suitcase. I'm keeping my right shin parallel to my left shin. I'm just lifting the legs straight up. And as I do that, I'm keeping the right hip stacked over the left hip. It is quite possible that one of your hips will be more awake or stronger than the other. So if this side feels a little bit more wobbly or you feel like you're starting to roll back, feel free to use the wall or a couch for support, even if you didn't use it on the first side. Feel a little shake in this leg as it gets towards the end of its range of motion here. So then once you lift your leg up, we can start some hip circles here. And you can circle as big or as little, feels good to you today. I do encourage you to maintain the lazy vibe and go slowly. And let's reverse. Notice if it feels easier to go in one direction than the other. Great job. And go ahead and close your suitcase. Let everything relax for a moment. Take a full breath in and out. Oh, I closed my eyes. I could fall asleep. Okay, now let's keep the knees together and take the ankles apart. Right ankle goes up towards the ceiling, and then ankles together, knees apart. Ooh, that's a little stiffer. Knees together, ankles apart. Ankles together, knees apart. And just continue toggling back and forth. Feeling that right outer hip getting nice and warm. So let's do one more each way. Okay, now, starting now is the one more each way. Knees together, ankles apart. Ankles together, knees apart. And then close your suitcase. Okay, take a full breath in and out. Okay, go ahead and push yourself upright. Now we're gonna come into hands and knees. So if you would like the blanket under your knees for padding, feel free to set that up. I feel like I got relaxed and then my hair got like wild down there while I was on my side. Okay. Hello, Monty. Some people that have online fitness videos have a pet, like a cat or a dog, to like give everybody a little bit of love and encouragement. But we here at Kindbody, we have Monty, the emotional support plant. And I'm so grateful for you, Monty. Okay, so spread your fingers nice and wide. And now we're just gonna imagine that there's a pencil on the tip of the tailbone, and we're gonna trace some circles with the tailbone, some pelvic circles. So you're gonna have to channel your inner Shakira or Ricky or Elvis, whomever you would like to channel. Please do so. Okay, and reverse. Great job. Come back to center and just take a little twist from side to side. So scrunch up one side, bring your shoulder and your hip closer together, and then go to the other side. Okay, so from here, let's go ahead and sit back onto our seat. You can move your blanket out of the way. Okay, bend your knees and put your feet out in front of you. And then you're gonna take your hands back behind you. So it doesn't really matter the position of your hands and wrists. I'm gonna keep my fingertips pointing towards my pelvis because that feels like a really good stretch on my forearms. But if that's too hard on your wrists, you can always turn your hands out wide, side to side. Okay, so option one is to stay here with your bottom on the ground and take your feet a little bit wider, maybe mat's width apart. Option two is to do this with your hips lifted away from the ground. So you really just have to choose and decide based on your energy level today. Find what's kind. I'm gonna show you both ways. So if you're starting with your hips on the ground, we're gonna do the same thing regardless of where your hips are. You're gonna take your left knee out to the side and then back up and in towards the other side. And then after you do the left leg, you're gonna dip the right knee in towards the middle and out towards the side. Any amount, okay, as far as it wants to go. If your hips are lifted, it's gonna look like this. left knee out, left knee in, right knee in, right knee out. Okay, your choice. We're just going from side to side. I like to do it personally with my hips lifted because I feel like I can move my hips more. But at the same time, my arms are feeling a little bit shaky. So you just have to make a choice. Maybe I'll do a few more with my hips up, and then I'll set my hips down and do a few more. The best of both worlds. That's me trying to find what's kind for my body today. Yep, now my arms are tired. I'm gonna turn my fingertips out and I'm gonna keep going. Giving a little grease to these hips, these hip joints, so we don't turn into a tin man or tin lady. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and sit up, and I'm gonna sit on my blanket to give me a little bit more elevation. You can sit on a blanket or a pillow or a couch cushion. You can even do this if your legs and hips are really tight feeling. You can even do this sitting on a step stool or on the edge of a chair, okay? You're gonna just take your legs as wide as feels comfortable. So if you're in a chair, you know, just your heels might be on the ground, or you might put the soles of your feet on the ground. And then, you know, making sure that you're sturdy on the chair, you can lean forward for a stretch. And that's what we're gonna do here on the floor too. I'm just gonna lean forward in the amount, and I'm gonna make sure that my shoulders and my neck are soft. Taking some nice, slow, intentional breaths. And then I'm gonna climb my hands back towards me as I sit upright. Now, I'm gonna take and scrunch up the right side of my body, okay? So for me, I have a lot of opening room in my hamstrings, in my legs. So I can come down pretty far here. If you don't feel like this added weight here feels good for your hamstrings, you know, you can always rest your forearm on a yoga block or a yoga block or a step stool. Or, you know, if you're doing this in a chair, maybe you rest your forearm on a table and you kind of slump over to the side. Okay, get creative. There's lots of options. I'm gonna go like this, and then the left arm, first we're gonna just take it straight up in the air. And then you can swoop it in a line with your ear and see how that changes the stretch sensation. Go back to the first one. How does that stretch feel? Does it change, and how, when you swoop in a line with your ear? Great, and come back upright. And now we're gonna lean over to the other side. So again, the lean gives more load to the stretch. It might make the stretch sensation of your leg increase. So if that feels kind for your body, go for it. If you need to decrease or lessen the load, lessen the sensation of the stretch, then you're gonna wanna give yourself some support to also lean into, whether that's the yoga block, the step stool, or the table, okay? So I'm gonna just rest my left arm on my leg. And it's okay to let your head wilt. Kind of get a nice stretch in the shoulder and the neck too. Now take your right arm up towards the ceiling and watch how the stretch sensation changes when you swoop that arm up towards the ear, forward and up towards the ear. And again, point your arm straight up and then Watch how the stretch sensation changes as you take your arm in a line with your ear. As I was talking and thinking, my head started floating back up, so I'm going to encourage my head to wilt again. Great job. Come back upright. One more move on each side with the legs wide like this. Okay, so this time we're going to add a twist to our bending. So first of all, you're going to rotate your torso towards your left leg, any amount, okay? And then you'll lean forward over that leg. So you can use your hands on the ground to push a little and lessen the load on the hamstring. You can also, rest forearms on blocks. Depending on how you're set up at the table, I could maybe envision sitting in a chair, resting your forehead on the table as you lean over your right leg, which would be under the table. I'm seeing all of this in my head right now. Great, come back upright, untwisting, and then we're gonna rotate to the left this time. Oh, there was a creak there. And I'm gonna start to fold out, bending over that left leg. Taking some intentional slow breaths. Soft neck and shoulders. Remember, we're channeling lazy vibes here. Who cares if you get to your toe? Who cares if you can reach your foot or not? If you're lazy, truly lazy, you might not really care about it that much. Okay, go ahead and come back upright. And now we're just gonna bounce the legs back in. Okay, we're gonna lie down on the back now, and I'm gonna use the blanket under my head as a nice little pillow. And this is where you'll need your can. I'm using pumpkin. Maybe in the comments you can let me know what canned food you're using. Okay, so I'm gonna lay down. And I'm gonna keep my knees bent, and I'm gonna let my knees fall in towards one another. That feels like a comfortable resting position for me. So if that feels well to you to rest that way, great. Otherwise you can keep your knees apart, or you can, put your feet up on a chair. I wouldn't extend your legs straight because we need to keep the rib cage really low and relaxed towards the ground. So if you wanted to straighten your legs, maybe put some bolsters or pillows under your knees, and that'll help to keep your rib cage down. Okay, so I'm gonna hold the can in my right hand, and here's how I'm setting it up. Okay, so my right elbow is in a line with my shoulder, straight out to the side. Got a 90-degree bend in my right elbow, and then my wrist is stacked over my elbow. My palm is holding the can, so my palm is facing away from my face. Okay, so I'm gonna keep my hands on my rib cage here, my low ribs, to remind this area to stay relaxed and down. Okay, now I'm gonna go as slowly as I can, super slow. I'm gonna keep my elbow where it is, but I'm gonna try to lower the can and the back of my hand towards the ground, any amount. Going nice and slow. Super duper slow. Feeling the upper arm rotate on the ground. For me, it personally feels like the ground should have already appeared, and yet there's still more room to go. If you can't get all the way to the ground comfortably, don't force it. Stop where your arm wants to stop. So I'm hovering a bit above the ground, and this is where my arm wants to stop. So now we'll bring it back up in a quicker movement, okay? And we start again, lowering down, super slow, slow lower. Once you've done this a few times, your brain might be like, oh, okay, I know what we're doing now. And it might feel like the ground comes a lot faster. Like I just found the ground that time, okay? Once you get to where you're going, if you get to the ground, great. If you can't get to the ground, great. Once you've maxed out your range of motion comfortably, go ahead and come back up. We're gonna do it again. So we're gonna try for 5 of these lowers. And this is a great lazy move because obviously we get to do it while we're laying down. It's a super slow move. And it is really nice to help. I'm getting so lazy, my brain's not working with words. For me, it helps to feel like I have a more open chest, okay? And so we've got one more here. Nice and slow, last one. If this feels like it's not enough of a challenge, if you feel like your shoulder would maybe benefit from a greater load, you can try this with a heavier weight than a can. Maybe if your water bottle is heavier than the can, let's go ahead and switch sides. Or maybe you have one of those hand weights that's a little heavier than the can. You can try it with that too. So setting up the left side, left elbow in a line with left shoulder. My right hand is just reminding my rib cage to stay soft and down. And then really slowly, with control, lowering the hand down towards the ground. So this is requiring our pecs, the muscles in the front of the chest, to work in a lengthened position. So it's an eccentric exercise. So it's still working on strengthening. I've got to move this basket. It's still working on strengthening our pecs, just in a different way. And probably in a way that you don't normally move on a daily basis. Another way to strengthen the pecs would be a push-up, but that's a concentric exercise for your pec muscles. Your pecs get short as you do the action. So remember, we're aiming for 5. And as you go here, just paying attention, does this shoulder move differently than my other shoulder? Did the ground seem to come faster or slower? I'm on number 4. Again, super lazy. Last one for me. Nice soft face, soft jaw. Great, okay. Go ahead and bring your arm back up. Put that can off to the side and go ahead and extend your legs out straight. Reach your arms overhead. Take a big stretch. Maybe circle your wrists, circle your ankles. All of my joints here are popping. Go in both directions. Okay, give your knees a hug into your chest. Maybe you do a little rock from side to side here. Give your low back a little massage on the ground. And if you want to keep on being lazy, you can go ahead and set a timer and lay down and take a rest or meditate or just sit quietly. And otherwise, if you need to move on with the rest of your day, you can join me in rolling over to one side and slowly sitting up. So great job. Proud of you for moving. And if there's ever a time when you're feeling lazy, but you do feel like you need to move, but the laziness wins, I'm proud of you for that too, because your worth does not rest on your productivity or your positivity or your energy level. You are worth it no matter how you're feeling and just the way you are. Thanks so much. I'll see you next time.